Yeah, hi Kai, how are you? Yep, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all. I know so many wishes today across so many mediums. I just feel so blessed. 34 and counting. Yeah, I don't really get the whole German Bavarian diet. I've always been, it's like bottom three of cuisines out there if we're doing the power ranking shim. So I hope your digestive tract, Kai, has recovered as you've returned so comfy to American culture.
Yeah, happy birthday to you, Matt. Make sure everybody out there knows that is today. Yay, yay, yay. Happy birthday, make a wish. We're happy to have Kai back. He might be a little out of rhythm, folks. 2 weeks off for Mr. McEwen. The Weave took one off, and Maddie and I with a two-man. So we're going to see if Kai's on his game. We're throwing him back into the fire as the host this week. Lots to discuss in the ACC, though. So, the old ACC, for those listening, this is last year's look back on the ACC, which did not include Stanford, Cal, or SMU. So, more of that, some good takes that we had, some bad takes that we had. We will rightfully roast ourselves where necessary. It's going to be a fun one, Mr. McEwen. I love Star Wars.
No, I'm neutral. I've seen him. I'm neutral. I'm privy, just not obsessed as you two dorks are.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, if Kai's
Oh,
muted, that's fine.
Jim, you got
Not muted for
yep,
you
go.
pod listeners right
And we're
now. It
back.
is it is muted for video.
I'm
And we're
sorry.
back.
I'm
We're
sorry,
back.
podcast or YouTube channel viewers. I didn't change the mic setting on the OBS system. That's on me. If you listen to the podcast, just catch up there. At least we hit record. We're all good. We're back. It's episode 352, and I'm still screwing things up. Anyways, yes, updates. A teaser. Wink, wink. That's all we'll say for now. Exciting things, perhaps down the road for the Weave. So, hint, hint, wink, wink.
What?
That's
The
right.
Oh,
last
that's
the
cool.
last teaser we had about the Daily Show was about like a 2.5 month long teaser.
True.
So
True.
folks, don't get your hopes up that the news out is coming out in a day.
Yeah.
But we do have something in the pipeline. It's in the slow cooker. It might
We
take a couple
we like to
days
tease
on
things.
low to cook it up. Yeah.
Yeah, very low. We like to tease things like a year in advance. Like before we even incept the idea, like we might have a thing that could possibly be a real thing,
Mm.
and then kind of let you sit at the edge of your seat for, a whole year. So yeah, get ready. Get ready.
Get ready. Here we go. And get ready for the podcast. Let's do it. Roots Roundup, starting us off with some news and notes.
Let's do it. News and notes in the world of college basketball. Roots Roundup, unsponsored again in the off season. Hey, throw us some money. You can talk about you. We will.
Yes.
We'll do it.
Yes.
And we'll do it convincingly. You've heard Kai do ad reads. Come on, folks. You know it's professional all the way. Key headlines to mention: the Ledlum Dingle lawsuit. Matt, did we mention this a little last time? Just
Briefly.
just
Yeah.
in passing. And then now we've got the players era tournament. We'll discuss that too. The lawsuit again is for these Ivy League players to try to get their fifth year, basically saying the NCAA is not fairly adjudicating the fifth year to teams, even though they very clearly upfront stated it is not a fifth year. It is a free year. And the year that they missed was not a year they could have earned NIL money. So it's dumb. I think it's a bad lawsuit. I hate it. I hope they don't win. And I hope there's not unlimited eligibility. That's my take. Kai, would you like to offer any commentary on this as Matt and Jim gave a little bit last week, but I'm curious what you think.
Stupid. Just leave school, man. You're done. Like, stop suing. Stop suing things. Ivy kids. Golly. It's so. Oh, I'm gonna sue you. Do you know who my father is? I'm gonna sue you. This is all the Ivy kids are doing these days. I hate it, Jim. Just quit it. Go play pro basketball, Ledlum and Dingle. Go play pro overseas. I don't know what you're doing. Like, You don't want to be Van Wilder at your school. It's a great movie, but I don't think it works in real life too well.
Yeah, I have a mindless TV show I like to watch before I go to bed every night. I rotate, like it's not the same thing. But right now I'm currently on Suits, which I've never watched, and it's all Harvard law people. And I'm sure they would love to get their hands on this lawsuit and stick it to the NCAA. Quite frankly, I don't care. Yeah, I don't want the precedent set of unlimited eligibility or the NCAA cannot rule on eligibility. That would be really bad for the sport in general. And I think for my interest in the sport, I would hate it. I would be very significantly less interested. So keep that away from us. In more positive news, more fun news, the Players Era Tournament has arrived. This is a Matt Norlander exclusive at CBS Sports. Might not be exclusive, but he had it first. A tournament in which 7 teams currently announced, and there will be an 8th eventually. They're having an NIL-driven tournament where each team gets $1 million and an additional $1 million paid out to the winner. Hey, that's money. Go earn it. Love to see that. We've got Alabama and Houston. Those are going to walk in the tournament as your favorites, kind of presume top 10 teams right now by just about everybody, maybe even top 5. Notre Dame, Oregon, Rutgers with their stud freshmen, San Diego State, Texas A&M with Mr. Wade Taylor back there, and one team TBD. Kai, it's in Vegas. Everybody goes to Vegas and makes money. That's how that city works. So college kids should do that too.
They just print money. It's free. You walk into the casino, they hand you $100 bills, Matthew, as you very well know.
It's really cool. You guys should go. It's that easy. Jim, real quick, as defenders of college basketball democracy, don't we want to maybe take a devil's advocate take with this type of thing as the step first or one of many to come steps in elbowing the mid-major and low major out of the cool opportunities in non-conference? Not they've already kind of been shoved to the back, but that was my one I don't like that there wasn't like I'd like to see larger pool, maybe newer NIL driven mid-major showcases. We saw that last year, FAU, Charleston, and Liberty. We need more of those. Like that's going to take some real some heavy lifting with organization and stuff, but I want to see that kind of balance out the increasing power dominance that these big conferences will have over these NIL events. Only concern. That's all I have.
I mean, they're going to have power dominance over NIL events because they have the money, they produce the money. Like, I don't know. I don't know how you convince anyone to pay Belmont $500K for a tournament. Like they're just not going to draw anything near. So
you're gonna need like local or powerful mid-major organizers to like do this, but I don't know. Hope, but not much.
We'll see. Chances gets expanded to 16 the following year, though the fact that it seems almost assuredly going to hemorrhage money and not make money for the organization seems like it's gonna be hard to double the size of it. But Kai, you've been to a 16-team tournament in Portland. I guess we all have. We went to PK 80. Kai was at PK 85. That's fun. There's a lot of basketball played over the course of 3 days. So we would actually, I think it was 4 that took a day off, but I hope to see something like that. It would be cool. Just more early season attention grabbing type stuff for the sport. I'm still in favor of that, despite Matt's valid point about shrinking opportunities for mid majors. Coaching news. Let's move to that real quick. Colorado hired Danny Manning to the staff. And fellas, anytime you can get a guy that was on the Louisville staff, I think you just got to do it. And Colorado made that smart decision. Kai, copious head coaching success in Manning's past. Why not?
Sure. I'm sure he's a great guy.
He's up front, Kai. He's seen how not to win. And so I think he can bring those learnings to this program and kind of, hey, Tad, let's start with what you don't do and kind of bring those bullet points and build from there. So, Jim, I'm trying to spin zone this into like anything close to a cool hire, but I can't quite do it.
If I may
get there.
Add a Simpsons reference, Don't Do What Donnie Don't Does. It was a book that I think Marge gave to Homer, one of those things. But basically, don't do what I do is Danny's strategy as an assistant coach, like you were saying.
There you go. Hey, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons as a kid, and I've never watched it. Maybe it'll be my next.
Well, you weren't allowed to.
Was it like
no? Is it that?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It was seen a little bit. It was seen as a little bit crass when it came out. Matt, it was ahead.
McKeon household progressive. Look at you, Kai, getting exposure.
I don't think my mom loved that I watched it. I just kind of
yeah.
My spin zone for this, Matt, is one that a coach made last summer to me when he was bringing in a couple guys from teams that had lost a bunch the previous season, transfers. It's like they're so desperate to not lose that they will do
Yeah, I remember
anything.
you saying.
I was like, oh, I guess I buy it. It's a good
I want
spin
to taste
zone.
winning. I haven't actually contributed to it myself, but I want to be a part of that. That's my
And
thing. Yeah.
I'm not going to admit that I was a part of the problem. No, that couldn't be it. Just a quick note there. Recruiting news. Guys, I didn't know Big Z had a twin, but
Yeah.
apparently he does. Zvonimir Ivasic, the freshman sensation, kind of, at Kentucky last year, moved on to Arkansas with John Calipari. His brother, twin brothers, headed to Illinois to play for Mr. Underwood in Champaign. The roster turnover continues there in Illinois despite a successful season last year. This will be fun. It's people just get super, super excited about these international recruits that do nothing as freshmen. Cool. Get your hype in now.
Yeah, they really buried the lead on the twin thing, Jim. I had no idea. No idea.
Yeah, I saw the Ivasic and was like, wait, that's familiar. I wonder if they're brothers. And I Googled, it was like, oh no, they're twins, and they were both
Absolutely.
over 7 feet tall. And I assumed that was tough to feed those boys growing up. That's my perspective there. Transfer news again. The winners and losers episode will come after most of the dust has settled. We are definitely getting there. If you go through Jim's roster document that you could have access to, a lot of the high ranking 10.0 players, 9.5, 9, those guys are pretty much all getting to destinations right now. The big teams that made headlines over this past week, definitely Baylor, definitely Alabama, and definitely St. John's, Kai. Roster construction, certainly a question. Kadari Richmond and Davon Smith. We will discuss this ad nauseum on future episodes, but worth noting the Johnnies at least got some talent. You could make a very clear argument Kadari Richmond is one of the best 3 players in the portal.
Yeah, he's awesome. We've loved him for years. He finally kind of lived up to his billing last season. I don't love that. I don't love the going to a conference rival type of thing. Maybe that's the old school in me, but as
Yeah, I
John
don't
Fanta
either.
put it, he goes across the Hudson to St.
Nice.
John's, and I just, I don't love that.
I agree. Hey, Kobe Johnson to UCLA, USC to UCLA, same thing. We'll see more
See,
of that.
that's even worse. They're supposed to be like rivals, right? I mean,
Yeah, supposedly. I don't know. I don't think a lot fewer care than we pander their gym. I thing with this for me
They're all
is
mercenaries anyways.
yeah, exactly.
Hired guns.
yeah,
Jim, real quick on your St. John's Rick Pitino point, I want to go back to your Suits reference you made earlier in this. I'll make a second Suits reference. Every
Okay.
episode is like 20 twists. Like a guy comes with a lawsuit out of nowhere, and then like Harvey counters it with some crazy rule that he found in like chapter. And then it's like that. That's what Pitino does with recruiting. It's like he kind of messes something up, and then he finds a remedy, and then that remedy gets screwed up. He loses Cliff Amoria, and then he finds another. It's just like at the end of the day, you usually bet on Rick Pitino. At the end of the day, you always bet on Harvey. Roster doesn't have a great amount of shooting. In fact, like negative shooting, but I just think you're going to be fine. Again,
It's
Rick Pitino is
it's
always
funny
fine.
if Mike Woodson had this roster without with this dearth of shooting, people would be like, "What the hell?" But it's
Yeah.
Rick Pitino, and he has earned the benefit of the doubt. Could be ugly at times, but they're going to be unbelievable defensively.
Defensively, yeah.
That's what I'm going to hang my hat on. That's what they're going to hang their hat on. I should have mentioned Baylor, Norchad Omier heading there. Another one of I would say the best 5 players in the portal, like almost guaranteed all conference type guy, hyper productive at the high major level. Baylor still might have some defensive issues. I don't think Mr. Omier solves those, but it's fun to look at that roster on paper now with Roach and Omier added in as the bookends. Gonzaga finally made some impact moves here, picking up Caleb Battle. Posh Alexander to Dayton is funny just because we have buried Mr. Alexander, and they also have Malachi Smith and Javon Bennett coming back. It's a very weird roster fit, dual point guard situation, I guess.
Posh plays the 3.
Yeah, that's fine. He should. Yeah, don't let him make all the decisions offensively, and it might be better.
Yeah.
And then Duke, Matt, the big roster exodus that they had, a couple, at least one in conference departure with TJ Power going to Virginia, along with Jalen Worley from Florida State. Matt, just a week ago, actually less than a week ago, we talked about Virginia needs anything and everything. I believe they've gotten 3 transfers since then, maybe 4. Tony Bennett, just like Pitino, a little bit of a late bloomer in the portal.
Yeah, I think he was pouting, and then he was like, all right, I got to get some dudes, or else we're going to actually be bad this year. So, and now the roster is like, oh, okay. Tony Bennett, could talk myself into it. Yeah, I agree. Good for Tony. I'm rooting for him as much as everyone's made fun of their offense and how he refuses to evolve and how there's rumors of him wanting to step away. I'd like for him to kind of keep being the thorn in the ACC side. I would like that for Tony.
Yeah, we will certainly discuss Virginia a little more in this episode. It is an ACC episode, so we'll get to that. That is it for Roots Roundup, Kai. A little bit of an abrupt end there, but we've got plenty to discuss with the Atlantic Coast Conference. So let's get into the meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes of the pod is, of course, the ACC recap and some state of the programs of each ACC program. I guess reflection time is in order, fellas. We're going to talk about each team in their final standings order, but if you already forgot, the season ended just over a month ago. North Carolina won the regular season. Congrats to the Tar Heels. Hubert Davis, a little redemption tour for him after being, I think, the only team ever to be ranked number one preseason to miss the NCAA tournament in 2022-23. And they turn around and they get a 1 seed, and congrats, the Tar Heels were great. Of course, tournament didn't work out for them, but regular season, fantastic. Virginia somehow finished third. And I know you guys, the naysayers out there, hated Virginia and didn't want them in the tournament. And the ACC complained about not getting many bids. But guess what, Matt? Virginia got third in the dang league. You know? Help me out.
Unbalanced schedules, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah. Yeah,
that
Okay,
matters.
for sure.
Sure.
I-
They did have the 12th strength of schedule per KenPom. So, yes, it's a little unbalanced there.
Well, I think Kai, you had good reads on this league last year. I really tried to get cute, Jim, with a lot of my takes. Like I tried to talk myself into some bullish.
You got adorable on this league. If we're
And I don't know if it
cute
was like
scale.
some old like ACC defensive mechanism in me, but yeah, this league was what it was last year, right? I mean, it had some good moments in the tournament, which I'm sure we'll discuss, but all in all, it was kind of another, all right, ACC, like you're not being taken as seriously as
Yeah.
the other big time conferences. I don't think they deserved it until mid-March, basically.
Once again, ranked 5th on KenPom's conference rankings. If you're into that sort of thing, I am.
Hey, big improvement from 7th the year before when
True.
the Mountain West is ahead of them.
Yeah, very. Now, of course, I think the ACC, the runs in the tournament, NC State probably helped by
Yes.
getting up in the tournament. Right. They finished 10th in this league. They finished 9-11 in ACC play, and we're a Final Four team. So, again, don't take the NCAA tournament as Bible. But enough of that. Louisville finished last again. Haha. We'll talk about them. Let's get through each team. We're going to start off with, of course, the UNC Tar Heels. Yes, I slight apologies due to Hubert Davis, I suppose, guys. Did he win?
Oh, come on. You can do better than that. Yeah. And he was heavy coach of the year winner by a landslide. We threw him under the bus. He was good. They were good.
Did he won coach of the year? ACC?
Yeah, I think it was like 49 points of votes, and the second place had 12 points of votes. Like it was pretty heavy his favor.
I don't know what else you give it to, frankly, in this league, but yeah.
Yeah, my bad quote here was I'm really worried about the defense. It could be a major problem. And they finished 8th nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency. That was a huge whiff by me. The whole thing going forward with them, Matt, I'll go to you. It's just, I don't think we can use Hubert as like a reason to knock them anymore. He has improved out of like flaw liability category.
I agree.
At very minimum, I'm sure UNC fans would beat the drum for even more than that, but I think we can at least concede that. The one thing I'm curious about is if he's going to be when there's expectations, he flails. When there's not, he succeeds. And next year they're going to be like preseason top 7 because RJ Davis is back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of like Hubert Davis, John Shire. I think we're both I'm collectively merging them into my same perception where I feel like
I think Hubert Davis is helping Shire there.
Probably. Oh, I think, yeah, definitely so. But when you look at those two, you're not going to ever say, this team got a chance to really shatter expectations. Like, no, I think they're going to play to the talent level and the roster they have, but they're always going to have really good rosters. And they do a nice job both, I'd say, at old with new, right? They like still kind of pecking at that 5-star youth pipeline, but they've really held on to some core veteran pieces. I think it gives them kind of a higher floor in like the elite blue blood top 10, top 15 annual big boy table. But roster construction, I think, is his best strength. Coaching wise, I think it's probably better than we maybe gave it credit for a year ago.
Well, yeah, can I be the UNC naysayer listening to what you just said? Oh, he can't blow by expectations. Didn't he last year? Didn't he literally just do that?
I guess he did. I think we had high expectations. I had this team like French top 20 last year.
Yeah, but they won the league by 2 games and got a
They
1
did. They
seed.
did. They were very good. I know. They had a really good roster, though. But I agree. My point is, I think he's always
You
going to have
thought
really good
Paxton
rosters.
Wojcik was better than Cormac Ryan. You didn't like this
that was a
roster.
tough take. That was a tough take. Hey, apparently Hubert did too. He started the first 5 games for God's sakes, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, Cormac Ryan's probably better. We're not gonna."
The roster construction is his biggest strength. Baycott and RJ Davis on your team. You have 2 All-Americans.
RJ Davis again next year. RJ Davis next year? Are you kidding me? How does it even RJ Davis again? It's insane. Sorry.
I don't know. This is hard. We had a question about this in the Discord when we did the AMA with Trilly. Like, how do you really evaluate coaches? Well, it is tough because you have to kind of handicap coaches for their talent. And, frankly, I think Hubert with this roster should have been a top 10 team. I did not think he would be. I certainly had doubts, but home run, Portal, Ingram and Ryan, they were huge, and Kadu worked out as a freshman. And he was a reclass, right? He got lucky. I mean, not lucky, but he got fortunate that Kadu was able to step up in a situation where we've seen a lot of reclass guards unable to. So, fantastic year for UNC overall. Moving on to Duke. Matthews, Duke Blue Devils. Per the podcast, Matthew. Okay, so we were high on Duke. We were all high on Duke in the offseason. Took futures. Matt said it looks like a lot like the 2010 roster in the preseason pod. Matt, what did you mean by that? Forgot.
Just a really good roster. Some young talent with some veteran pieces. Jeremy Roach, kind of the old head. Some burgeoning sophomore
I'm twisting
talent
into Matt was like, this is a national title team, which
basically
again,
thought they were a
I
title
picked
team.
I picked him to do that.
I thought they were too. Yeah, to that level. Well, I said too much of elite to be number 1. Good for me. Good for me.
Good for you, Kai.
All right. Yeah. So John Shire. Jim, where do we stand on John Shire? I would say Duke. I mean, they played to expectations, I suppose. They ended up in the top 10 in KenPom. They were still really good. It feels like they kind of underachieved just because we thought they were national title level, and they obviously bowed out in the Elite Eight instead of making the Final Four. But I don't know. I would say play to roster expectations.
Yeah, I don't think by any stretch has he exceeded the first 2 years.
Exactly.
Expectations with the talent level that he has assembled. I think that's more what he is right now. He's a talent accumulator. And to be honest, that's like kind of what every K disciple has been at other places. Like I think of Wojo at Marquette. Like that guy accumulated talent and didn't really maximize it at all. And this is seemingly just another guy on the tree. Now, a couple of the guys on the tree have sort of figured it out. Like Chris Collins has been great at Northwestern.
Yep.
Jeff Capel, we'll get to him very shortly, has been really good at Pitt over the last 2 years. So maybe there's hope for Shire, but he's not somebody that you're going to like, oh, this talent is B+. He's going to turn this into an A team. Like, I think you're getting the talent level that it is or a little worse. That's the level for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Kai. It does feel like they underachieved last year. It does actually feel like it's been almost 2 years they've underachieved, and maybe we're just overhyping the roster. Maybe I'm just Duke biased, but like the rosters have been awesome. Still, I mean, Sweet 16, Elite 8, you want to look at the end of the season resume. It doesn't look like he's
don't
done terribly, but I'm not going to do that. Right. I mean, he's lost 18 games the last few years, lost 9 games last year, lost 9 games the year before that. And they play in the ACC. So it's not like they're playing the Big 12. The regular season path to get to March is a little bit of a, leaves me wanting more per se. And you can certainly poke holes in the paths of their March movement in the last few seasons. So yeah, I think John, the jury's still out, and I recognize that the bar is going to be really, really, really high for you every year because your rosters rock every year.
Yep, and it will next year. Save the program. Duke's just fine. They're getting players. Cooper Flagg will be a generational talent. That's a guarantee. I'm willing to say that. And then the guards, right, Jim? Go ahead.
Yeah, they didn't go Sweet 16 first year, for the record. They lost round of 32 to Tennessee. So
yeah, 32.
Correct.
Thank you. Yep.
And then this year they beat a Jamal Shedless Houston to get to the Elite Eight and lose to an 11 seed that want them in the ACC tournament too. So if you're just pulling the final result, maybe it looks okay, but I think the process is shakier there. We pumped the brakes a little bit on the Proctor hype. We were like, all right, whole group think has been he's first or second team All-American. And we were like, wait a second, has this gone a little too far? So that was at least a decent take. Like I said, program's in good shape. They're going to stay up in 5 seed or better like every year because the talent level is going to be ridiculous. And this freshman class coming in is awesome.
Indeed. Okay. Virginia. Yes, that Virginia finished 13-7 in the ACC. Yeah, unbalanced schedules for sure. They didn't have too many impressive wins. They won at Clemson, pretty good win. Also, their non-con was actually really, really good. Beat Florida. They look to be a really solid team. Classic Virginia year, I would say, in terms of really bad offense. It was kind of a vintage form for them, and a really good defense. Seventh in the country defensively. They were notorious for having low-scoring games and ugly games. I mean, they were 200th offensively. That's really bad. You should never be that as a Power 5 team. Questions as to whether Tony Bennett really wants to keep doing this in this era. It seems like he's kind of, I don't want to say checking out, Jim, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from him. I love Tony Bennett, fantastic coach, but we were worried about the talent. It showed out. I think Bennett still kind of outperformed it despite the KenPom rank. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably just not as fun for him to like grow guys from freshmen into seniors and see Anthony Gill blossom into a beast defensively on after learning in his system, because most of the guys are leaving before they have a chance to do that. Um, yeah, the recruiting in the portal, he's gotten some solid guys as we referenced earlier, like high upside guys that have played in the ACC, but it does feel like they won a title because he got creative offensively and ran stuff besides mover blocker and was able to feature a little more offensive talent. But when it's, oh God, I have no talent, I have to do this mover blocker and slow the game down and walk the ball up the floor, it's going to be what it was last year. I mean, that offense was horrific, 200th in adjusted defensive efficiency compared to top 10 defensively. And it feels like that could be closer to the norm. Like I just don't know where he's going to get NBA level talent cultivated up through the program like he did with Guy and Jerome and DeAndre Hunter. It seems like people are quicker to leave, and the perception when you watch them play an NCAA tournament game, I can't imagine how many college kids that's appealing to, or prospects.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Kai, I worry about I hate to say I worry about the defensive side with him, but I mean, God, he had Ryan Dunn and Reese Beekman, like two all-world defenders last year. Leon Bond was
top 10 defense.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, it's almost always great. I just wonder, yeah, you have to find elite players on that side of the ball to uphold the system success that he's had. Like I do not believe it's just get five dudes off the street and you're gonna be a top 10. Like, no, he's really gotten some awesome, just freak defenders. And that's kind of a tough model to sustain going forward, especially when you're sort of playing catch up on the offensive end. So I don't know. I kind of worry about the backbone and foundation of this team, which is perceived to be really high in this program going forward. I think it's probably going to be pretty stable, but I think more volatility the next 5 years, if he's there next 5 years, Kai, versus the last 5 years or the last 10 years even.
Yeah, we talked about the recent transfer gets are better, but the roster before that was looking pretty bleak. Andrew Rohde. Can he be better than what he was last year? That was a big disappointment in the portal. Also, getting Jacob Groves, I know he actually played pretty well. I thought that was kind of not a great get, although he played pretty well, better than I expected. But Rohde, holy cow, he was bad.
Yeah, 81-0 rating. Matt, it was back-to-back teams in the preview of you, like within 2 minutes saying Paxton Wojcik's better than Cormac Ryan, and then like Andrew Rohde's gonna be a great ACC player. So yeah, like you said, you got a little cute.
Love it. Okay, we're gonna move on. Matt's embarrassed.
God, he shot 25% from three. What?
He was useless, man. They benched him like the final 5 games. It was just like, ugh.
Yeah, 7 of 17 from the line. I mean, I know it's only 17 shots, but like a guy of his caliber of a shooter to go 7 of 17 from the line kind of makes me feel like there was a mental shake there.
Also, how are you only getting the line that many times? He played so many minutes. That's terrible.
We move on to Pitt. The Pitt Panthers finished 4th. How about that? A lot of people think they got snubbed from the tournament. They're wrong. If the tournament didn't have bid stealers, they might have gotten in, though. Their KenPom rank, they finished 33rd, but that was helped heavily by NC State's run. They beat NC State a couple times. They finished the season at 43 before the ACC tournament, so probably more of a representation of them. But they were kind of a fun team during the year. They didn't have very many good wins, though. That was kind of what, in the non-con, I know they beat Duke, but losing to Missouri at home, can't do that the way our Tigers played this season. But overall, fun team. Jim, let's talk about what our buddy Goodman had them in the Almanac. That was a little surprising to us.
Yeah, that was like the start of the the section when we talked about them in the preview. It's like, whoa, 13th. Like we're
13th.
not
Wow.
going to war for Jeff Capel typically, but we all had them higher than 13th. Now we didn't have them fourth like they finished. So tip the cap to the Panthers and their run down the stretch and how well they played. Bub Carrington was better than
Awesome.
we thought. That was a
Yep.
big concern for us was, they're starting two or one of two freshman guards. By the end of the year, they were starting both, and Lowe was awesome down the stretch too. Carrington's going to be a one and done. So certainly did not give them enough credit. Curious how things go without Hinson. I think he was such a matchup problem with his range, his burliness. You just like didn't know who to guard him with because he could post up smaller guys and shoot from forever away if you put someone bigger on him. But honestly, I think, Matt, the state of the program is kind of stabilized. Like I don't think I can throw
Yeah,
too
I
much
agree.
shade at Capel. He's shown an ability to find some good gems in the portal. Obviously, a couple good underrated recruits with Lowe and Carrington. So yeah, it's not like Pitt's a joke like they were, for 4 straight years before the last two.
Yeah, I mean they finished 33rd in KenPom last season. I mean they've been basically two straight tournament caliber years for Jeff Capel. It's sort of he got into that like, oh no, he's on the hot seat. He'll never really get off. And I think 2 years later, it's like, okay, yeah, you had the really good year 2 years ago. I think last season people thought it'd be a project with relying on, not, Carrington wasn't regarded as like a top 15 guy. He was a big prospect, but not like like an Isaiah Collier type dude. Um, yeah, good for Jeff. I'm still kind of stunned by it. I just thought he has a pretty long resume of not being a good X and O guy. So I'm glad he's gotten it stabilized, Shem. It's certainly not it's not at the Jamie Dixon bar,
No.
but it's certainly trending back toward the right direction.
Yeah, let's see what they do without Henson. He was pretty huge last couple
All
of years,
everything.
but
Yeah.
maybe he's figuring it out. Hey, first 4 years at Pitt, they won 21 league games. The last 2 years, they've won 26. So he has definitely turned the program around from, it was pretty in bad shape when he inherited it. So maybe
Yeah.
give the guy a bit of a credit, I suppose.
And it felt like every year there was some weird off the court story with
Yeah.
like, Dior Johnson or
Right.
Xavier Johnson's not getting along with his teammates, shall we say.
Surprise,
So
surprise.
at least they've avoided that. Maybe he's recruiting better personalities now.
Yes. Okay. Fifth place in this league was Clemson. And man, we were high on Clemson in the preseason, and they delivered for the non-con. They looked great. They won at Alabama, scored some key wins over some future tournament teams. Had a bit of a rough stretch early on in conference play, but then kind of turned on the Jets, and of course had a nice run in the NCAA tournament. I loved this team. I loved PJ Hall. I was a big fan of Chase Hunter as well. I really think they gelled well. Brad Brownell, talk about a coach that used to be on the hot seat every single year. He certainly seemed to have risen above it. You really can't fault what he's done at Clemson. Really, overall, it's not an easy program to win at, being how much of a football school it really is. And maybe he's turned it into, a bit of more of a basketball program. But Matt, what did you think about Clemson?
Yeah, I mean PJ Hall, the fact that he played every game was shocking to me. I just thought he would be like a guy that you'd be betting as a favorite that he'd be missing time or be playing somewhat.
Oh
He
yeah,
played every
we
game.
almost board bet it. We agreed to a board bet, and then Kai was like, "Don't bet or don't bet on injuries." And you're like, "Okay, fine, I won't."
Yeah, that's stupid.
I set the
Good
line at
karma.
28 games, and he played all
Played everyone.
36.
Start everyone. And he was awesome early, and he was good all throughout the year, right? He had big time moments. I think what surprised us was the supporting cast surging late down the season. I just think the ACC, the bigger, better conference teams could check Hall, but then I think PJ kind of, he would defer, he picked his spots, and the rest of the dudes, I mean, Hunter and Gerard and the Chefmeister up front, I mean, and then Jack Clark coming back. I mean, there's a lot of good pieces here. I think Brad Brunell, again, kind of like that Jeff Capel, although way, way longer runway of Jeff Capel being on the hot seat. Wait, no, he's not. On the hot seat. Wait, no, he's not. Does more with less. Never has a great roster. Always a good roster. Usually going to overachieve or achieve right at that level. He's a double every year, Kai. That's what Brownell is.
Yeah, well put. Well put. Yes, Jim. We picked Clemson fifth in the preseason. They finished fifth. How about that? Really cool. Good for us. Good weave.
Hey, and we also they were a tournament team. We I don't think we said they were Sweet 16, but
No.
they did get there. Shout out. Were they Elite Eight? Yeah, they made Elite Eight almost.
I mean, they
had the
were
shot at the Final
11.
Four.
They were 11-9 in the ACC and lost first round ACC tournament. So I mean, like it was there's every reason to give up on this team after starting off 9-0 and top whatever in the country.
Okay, next is Wake Forest. Man, Really wanted to like this team. Watched them in non-con and thought, man, this team is good. And then they just like, I don't know, they never achieved their potential. I will say, again, a team that probably should have made the tournament, but they lost too many games. They did not perform down the stretch. Losing to Boston College in the ACC tournament was the death knell. I love what Forbes has done to this program. You really can't deny. Just look at the players that he's. Excuse me, I'm talking about the wrong year, but losing to Pittsburgh in the ACC tournament was kind of the death knell, and losing 3 straight games down the stretch, especially Notre Dame and Georgia Tech, was brutal. But what Forbes has done, Jim, getting these transfers in and transforming them into all league players. Boopy Miller, an all ACC guy, he just keeps doing it every single year.
Yeah, we joked about it in the all conference portion of it. We're like, where's the Wake Forest transfer guard on first team? It's happened 2 straight years with Alondis Williams and Tyree Appleby. He did it a third time. Hunter Salas, first team, and Boopy was awesome too. You just look at some of the guys that he's brought in, what their production was and their competition level before they got there, and then what they've done at Wake Forest in the ACC and how well Forbes has maximized them, gotten them ready for the pros, like Jake LaRavia becoming a pro, and Hunter Salas immediately, like, Gonzaga couldn't find a use for him last year, except as like kind of a defensive stopper.
Yep.
And then he's a complete monster offensively for them. He just seems to find a way to instill confidence in his guards. I think that is sustainable. He's shown it 3 straight years with 3 different groups. I think this team in program is in good shape, Matt, but they do need to find a way to win some of the close ones late. Perhaps that's bad luck within a 1-year sample size, but we got to get him in the dance, Mr. Forbes. He's been knocking on the door and has had the invite, but he loses it in the mail or something like that. Kai, I did like your quote, tourney caliber, better than NC State, both of which were true, despite the fact that they didn't make the tournament and NC State made the Final Four. They were better than NC State, and they, people are going to yell at us because of the final postseason results, but they were better than NC State and they were tourney caliber. They just didn't quite get there on the dance.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Mr.
Also remember, Kai, they had like kind of a weird, the Bobby Clintman, like late NBA entry last season, supposed to be a huge player. I mean, that plus some of the injuries they've had.
And Alondis Williams and Jake LaRavia, like these guys.
You're right. All guys that just accelerated faster than they thought. And so he hasn't really been able to, I think, keep any continuity. No, I mean, everyone's struggled with continuity, right? But just the fact that you probably bet on those guys as at least 2-year guys, maybe. And now like we know it's just, you can't do it. Monsanto
was never himself this year at all.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I do worry that we're just like overly bullish on Forbes and we give him every excuse at every turn. But I do think he's had, replacing the disaster that, the wake of Danny Manning comes in. I think what he's done the last few years has been pretty impressive. Just hasn't been consistent enough, haven't won the key games to get over the hump. Went on the road, Steve. Quit just dominating teams at home. Went outside of your building. That would help you.
Agreed. Okay, Syracuse finished 7th in the ACC, a team that kind of they accumulated 20 wins. They got double-digit conference wins. You say, okay, pretty good year for Red Autry. Honestly, yeah, maybe I'd say that too. They lost Westry for the entire year. Benny Williams getting kicked off might have been a good thing for them. I don't know the chemistry, but we thought he'd be a good player this year. I know I did, at least. We were high on Syracuse in the preseason. It seemed like they were in every single game in the non-con. From a betting perspective, it was like, oh, Syracuse is right with Tennessee toe-to-toe, Gonzaga toe-to-toe. And then they would fade off and not cover the spread. And they would lose by double digits, and it's like they just kind of quit towards the end of games. Matt scored a couple nice wins, beat UNC. What's your thoughts about Syracuse and looking forward? Obviously, great guards last season, but we'll see what Red has in store for this year.
Yeah, I really liked Syracuse. I think the roster was really good. And I think there were moments where I thought Autry did a nice job. At the end of the year, it was just a little too inconsistent for me. I wonder if I'm looking at last year as like a meets expectation disappointment because my bar was just too high, Jim, where I've seen some other people think, Autry, first year, 20-12, kind of bounced their way to a plus 500 record in the ACC. You feel good about yourself. I think I can be sold on that take. I just was left wanting a little bit more. Just the way they sort of folded in some big games late. I just didn't like that. And maybe that they can kind of reset it this season, get their defensive thing in order, kind of getting away from the whole Jim Boeheim zone identity. Like I kind of think he starts to build something. I'm hopeful, I guess.
Their defense sucked. Like it was bad. It shouldn't have been as bad as it was, but switching from zone did not work. I mean, look at the defensive possession length. It went from super slow every year under Boeheim because of the zone to seventh. Excuse me. Yeah, seventh in the country, first in the ACC. I think teams got whatever they wanted in transition, and part of that is being super young. Like I understand that, but they had no rim protection. Even when McLeod was playing, like he wasn't good enough and not mobile enough. So they need to find a little more size, but you can't be as small as they were and not have any shooting. Like it was just Chris Bell. There was a weird
Yeah.
blend of just like got all these lanky athletes that love to drive. Like everybody is rim pressure, rim pressure, rim pressure with Copeland and Mintz and Starling. All those guys want to get to the bucket. They need to get more cohesively constructed rosters. And it seems like next year's a decent start for that. I know Orange fans are really high on what they've done, both in the freshman class and transfer portal, but I'm still wait and see on Mr. Autry. And I'm not going to jump through hoops considering that the one evidence we have of this coaching tree did not go very well in Washington.
I'm going to be high on this team next year. I just know it. Mintz Starling, Bell all back is pretty enticing. I think Lampkin's highly overrated, but I think
I think Mintz is going to go.
Okay.
I think Mintz is going to go pro.
Okay. I think Lampkin's overrated. I don't think that was as good of a get as Syracuse fans think. His antics in social media tells you. I mean, him like throwing two coaches under the bus back to back is just like, all right, I'm over Lampkin a little bit. And Jair Davis, awesome at Delaware. We'll see at Syracuse. This is not a roster breakdown, but we'll see. Okay, 8th place, Virginia Tech. Oh, boy. Disappointment is all I can say for Buzz Williams. Mike Young, Buzz Williams. I always get confused because Buzz used to coach here. 2 straight years, I would say, that Mike Young has failed to live up to expectations. Now, he had a few injuries this year, Matthew, I know. But I would still say, bad job, Mr. Young. And I was a little higher on them. Jim was correctly low in the preseason. But I know I was disappointed in this team.
Yeah, I guess I was too. I didn't really have high hopes. It felt like it kind of has felt like this now the last 2 years, I would say. Ever since they lost Keve Aluma and Justin Mutz, who were just like awesome NBA pro level talents. Like you take those guys away from a team that never really has athletes. I think you kind of see the bottom fall out a little bit. Last season, 2 years ago, and last season as well, Jim. You need athletes, Mike. I know it's not really your bread and butter of recruiting, but I think it was pretty badly exposed last season. Just couldn't really stand up.
Yeah, that he doesn't want to recruit too many athletes because the offense is so like skill based, intricate movement type based.
Shooting is always at a premium. Every guy he gets is like elite or fringe elite shooter.
So that and we said that coming in, like we were like, I know this team can score. I don't know how they really defend. Matt, you quoted very unathletic roster. Yes, I think that proved to be the case. They're barely top 100 in adjusted defensive efficiency. Toy Blue Wall from VCU is like by far the best athlete that Young has had, and that includes Mutz. Like he is ridiculous watching him at VCU, just bouncy. I'm kind of excited to see him intermingle with some of the other pieces. But again, not a preview episode, just maybe like at least a recognition of I need more ACC guys that can disrupt.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the direction he needs to make going forward is can you intermix the skill-based stuff that he's done a great job of recruiting and integrate it with a little bit more defensive upside with athleticism.
Yeah, weird roster next year already. I'm giving him an so far. Okay, Florida State. Man, Leonard Hamilton used to be automatic in terms of finishing top 20 in KenPom. He had a really nice 4 or 5 year stretch. Last 3 years have been disappointment. Certainly injuries have riddled his teams, but last year they just never quite got over the hump, I would say. And I can't remember what he said in the preseason, Jim. I know you went back and listened. The roster, not great. He hasn't done great at constructing rosters. Oh, looks like I asked if they can score. Good. I was correct. They were 90th in offense.
Yes, you did. That a boy.
Yeah, but the roster was just tough the last couple of years for Hamilton.
Yeah, and that felt like a big part of why they were so successful year after year in that good run was it's just holy talent. They're putting a guy in the lottery like every single year. And even if it wasn't the guy that was a number 3 recruit like Scotty Barnes, it was Devin Vassell like blossoming and being like, holy crap. Like they really developed this guy all the way back to Terrence Mann, who's getting minutes for the Clippers in the playoffs right now. last year's roster didn't have that. I don't look at next year's and see that. It doesn't seem like they have the same kind of recruiting momentum. Their portal haul is, I would say, outright bad. And Matt and I kind of razzed it last week. I think this is just not circling the drains mean, but I don't think the state of the program is very good right now. I think they need to think about being quick on their feet next offseason and looking towards Amir Abdur-Rahim, for instance, if they're trying to re-energize things. I just don't know how long Hamilton wants to be there, Matt. He can probably stay as long as he would like to.
Yeah, his goodwill is almost gives him too long a runway. I think if you're a Florida State fan, that's the worry. It's like, man, that guy has been so good for so long, but he's been pretty stinky for what's becoming a longer while than we all probably thought. And at this point, I can't make excuses for some of the bad luck or the injury stuff. The NIL thing was a disaster last season, like their in-state brethren, Miami. The panhandle programs trying to throw money at the issue. Money doesn't always buy happiness, nor does it always buy winning. And I don't think the money's gone very far this summer. So yeah, I'm with you, Jim. It feels like a circle the drain situation in Tallahassee.
State of the program's bad. They're a bottom 4 team in terms of the ACC next season. Yeah, sucks for Bunny Colvin. I hope he gets a nice retirement package and sails off into the sunset. Okay, NC State is where we're heading next. The Darlings, the Final Four team, they finished 10th in the ACC, guys. I know everyone saw the DJ Burns show, and he was fantastic and wonderful. But, man, and Kevin Keats' job was saved, Matt, but this team was not that great in the regular season. They weren't horrible by any stretch. They had moments. They just didn't beat anybody. They were competitive with good teams. They showed their merit in terms of that, but never really beat good teams. Finished under 500 in the ACC, which was not a good league during the season. I don't know what to think of them. I still think Keats is kind of a middling coach in the ACC, and that might just be what their program state is currently.
Yeah, I agree. They were deceptively competitive more than people realized to start the year. And I'm not saying the writing was on the wall for the run that they made, but they kind of got caught in the ACC mush where we all just kind of thought all those teams that weren't Duke or UNC stunk, and maybe a few were better than we thought the whole time. But that was really grasping for straws. So Jim Keats, it's just such I don't know, highish floor, but super low ceiling. And that's going to be where his outcomes are year to year, barring a wild and crazy Michael O'Connell 40-footer double bank off the glass against Virginia to make everything pop. So, I mean, I don't know. That's where I am on Keatsy. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's going to want us to judge him on the final 11 games and not the first 31 when they were 78th best team after the end of the regular season. Like, it just wasn't an overly impressive showing for most of the year. Matt, I think I remember you saying you watched the Tennessee game on a neutral court down, I think, in San Antonio, yep. And you're like, oh, okay, I kind of see it with them. But then, they lose like 10 of their final 14 games, and you're like, I don't know. The schedule's not that crazy. Yes, Duke and North Carolina are on there, but you lose to Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Virginia, Florida State, Pitt, Wake, like these other bubble teams. It didn't feel like they were maximizing what they had. I think it was more one kind of random run, and now Keats has mega job security because he got the extension for making that run, the automatic extension. I wonder if they would have given it to him if it wasn't automatic. But yeah, I still think the state of the program is like you're just a middle of the ACC, and it might be nice to try to capitalize on that run. I don't know if they'll be able to, because to me it was a little bit fluky, helped by shooting and helped by, like you guys said, a buzzer beater that could have ended it in the ACC semis.
Yeah, I think go ahead, Matt.
Oh, sorry. Like, just given, Jim, your point about you think they could capitalize on that run, like, look at, not to go into next year, but the roster they have next year, I think, is indicative of how hard that program is. Even given that run, you got no real momentum in the portal. Your roster looks pretty pedestrian. You're sandwiched in between the Duke and the North Carolina and the Tobacco Road big bullies. And this is kind of where I feel like you're always going to be banging your head against the wall, even when it's going good. Under Keats.
Matt, you're not amped up about 2 Louisville transfers, a Georgetown transfer, and a Bowling Green transfer?
Huntley Hatfield coming on down.
Now. That is overgeneralizing. Huntley Hatfield's like probably the most salvageable piece from that Louisville team, and he's kind of productive. But
I agree.
James, Styles, Hill, like, you can talk me into them a little bit, but I bet this team goes 10-10 in the ACC next year. I think Kevin Keats has a little Jeff Fisher to him in terms of
Yeah.
ACC performance.
8-12.
We're not
missed the
going
tourney.
effing 8-8.
You got to judge him on if he misses that shot. There's no Final Four. There's no tournament. It's amazing. Sliding doors. NC State. Okay, that's where we're at. Boston College. Okay, 11th in the ACC and competitive. I would say in the non-con. I know they had some bad losses. Not as bad as usual. They didn't lose to. I feel like every single year they lose to a bad team. They almost lost to Citadel this season. But there was no huge.
You said that in the
slip-ups.
preseason pod. You're like, I think it's like 7 straight years they've lost to a mid-major at home in the non-con. It's like they avoided that this year. Hooray.
Yes.
That game was at Citadel. I don't remember that game at all. That completely that game never happened in my opinion. Okay, but they won though. Good for them. Nice, good job, Earl.
They had some big moments. I mean, they handled St. John's. I think I watched that game. Quentin Post was great.
Yep.
This job is impossible. I think Earl Grant has done honestly a pretty good job of slowly gaining momentum. He took a step back in KenPom the year before, but his record has improved every single season overall. And man, I think that's succeeding at Boston College personally, Jim.
Yeah, I thought Matt kind of did the "I have no response, that was perfect" quote on the preseason preview. I will say it for you, Matthew. I'm gonna let you bask in the success and the correctness of it. Matt says, Grant is a do more with less, not raise the ceiling guy. This is a tight range of outcomes. Pretty solid, feisty, more of a top portion of the bottom of the totem pole. Perfectly said. That's like exactly what they ended up being. You were like, okay, I'm impressed by some of the guys on the team, and they weren't easy to play against, but you never felt like this team was going to push towards the NCAA tournament. And that's kind of what I think it's going to be. And I don't know how often they're going to try to recycle the coach and hit the reset button and try to find somebody who can get it higher than that. But Grant is at least going to not let the bottom fall out. I think that's relevant for them.
Yeah, it's exactly what you should be. In my opinion, I think that's what he's a perfect hire for this team, right? I mean, God, they went to the NIT last year. Like they actually were in a postseason tournament. I think that's crazy. But again, like NC State, tough program. I think the transfers they brought in were, again, not to go this year, but sort of emblematic of the program at large, which is our main purpose of this conversation. Tough to really holster momentum, right? I think you got to kind of build it with continuity to some degree, but then patch together with what you can through the portal and kind of rely on Grant's high floor type of style to keep you competitive. And what's fortunately for you, a watered down ACC right now.
Yeah, it's tough to build with continuity when 5 of your 6 guys that average 20 more minutes go to the portal. Like
they've had some young talent too. Yeah, like McLaughlin and there've been some decently like fringy 4-star talent guys haven't come through there and they haven't quite held on to them for a while.
Probably I would imagine they don't have great NIL and the guy's like, I'm an ACC starter, I should be paid better than this, and they leave.
So not to throw Goodman under the bus again, but he picked Boston College over Wake Forest, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And my quote was, Wake Forest is going to finish above them, and I bet a lot of money on that. If only there was a real market that I could have done that.
Yeah, we should have talked. Jeff's a gambler. Come on, he loves the blackjack table. We should have talked him into a heavy wager on that guy.
Okay, next up, Notre Dame. Guess what? Notre Dame, A+. Micah Shrewsbury. We rated the hire an A+.
Don't doubt the Shrews. Don't doubt the Shrews.
With that roster, to finish 7-13 in the ACC and, frankly, be really competitive against teams with much better talent. I know they got smoked by Citadel. Yeah, they had a couple bad moments for sure. However, this roster was bare bones, not an ACC roster, and he took this team 50 spots up in the KenPom totem pole since the preseason. And he developed some guys. Marcus Burton was awesome as a freshman. He really shined. I thought Shrewsbury's son, Braden, was pretty good, honestly. They lost Calvin Booth's kid to the portal, but I think it's very, very. I'm optimistic about Notre Dame, Jim. I suppose going forward with Shrewsbury at the helm once he gets
I said in the preseason pod, like last year did not matter for them. Mm-hmm. Like it's not important. Like just throw the freshmen out there, see what you have. Throw the young guys out there, see what you have. And it seems like they got something. Like Burton can clearly develop into a star in that league. Shrewsbury is going to be a great complementary piece. Kebajai following from Penn State, decent interior anchor type guy. There's internal continuity potential here because it is Notre Dame, and guys are going there more than for more than just an NIL deal. And so if you're able to recruit the right guys and keep some of that continuity, and that was Bray's best teams were the ones that got old and stayed old. And unfortunately that kind of ran out at the end. But with Shrewsbury's coaching acumen, I think they're in great, great hands and saw enough last year to be very, very encouraged, I think.
I made the comparison in the AMA on the in the burner. Shouts to our guy Trilly Donovan. That was fun, by the way. Enjoyed that. Look at Micah Shrewsbury, Notre Dame fans, how you feel about your program versus Georgetown, Ed Cooley, how you feel about your program. Fittingly, December 16th, they lost at home to Georgetown, Notre Dame. Then they lost 2 days later at home to the Citadel by 20 points. You fast forward to where you are now, and it's like I went from a 2 to a 10 on my Shrewsbury ND optimism. And I feel pretty good about that because Jim said they're going to keep players unlike most other schools out there. And I think that bodes well for the complexity of the system that Shrews run. Like you can't just plug and play dudes every year with how many they have like 250 plays in their playbook, I think, or something like that. So, I mean, I love what he's doing. Keep doing it. Stay true, Irish Domers and Shrewsbury believers.
The pod preseason, we were adamant that Louisville would lose to Notre Dame. They played, and Notre Dame won by 22 on the road at Louisville. That was the easiest call ever. And that, folks, is coaching. That's the exact example we're talking about. Louisville probably had more talent and didn't matter. It was X and O circles around them. Okay, Georgia Tech. All right. Georgia Tech, they got a new coach, Damon Stoudemire, who we were very, very high on heading into the year. Probably got a little bit blinded by how much we like Stoudemire. They finished 13th in the ACC. It sounds like I was a little bit more leveled headed than Jim and Matt. Matt had him 7th. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, I went too high.
Matt, what
too
did you
much.
think about Georgia Tech this year? They had moments, I would say.
It had moments. It's too inconsistent. I don't know. I was trying to pull up their consistency metrics on Hasman. They were all over the place, right? They won at Wake late in the year. They had some young pieces really step up, and you could start to see some foundational evidence of Stoudemire. But I think just
at
the
Wake,
roster,
at Clemson versus Duke, like they had
like,
some
big
really
wins.
good,
big wins. But then some, like whoa, head scratching results as well, which you expect from a young team, first year coach, new system. And that's going to be the challenge for Stoudemire is like, can he continue to pump talent in that program, some experience? I think he like really felt like they were young. He kind of like he seemed frustrated in the early part of the season. His pressers like, man, I just coached NBA guys and now I'm coaching like young teenagers who, don't really understand like what the concepts are I'm trying to. So I hope he kind of plugs that or bridges that gap this season with some of the offseason acquisition stuff. But I'm actually a little bit more bearish on this Jim long term. I just feel like there's an inherent ceiling to this program. I don't know why. I just like can't get past that.
Interesting. Paul Hewitt got him to a Final Four, Matthew.
I know that feels like 30 decades ago, doesn't it though? Like I just like the talent. Yeah. I was a child at that point.
Kai, a couple quotes from you. I don't think they're even in the same tier as the middle teams. After I had them 9th, Matt had them 7th. Yeah, they weren't even close. Despite some of the top end wins, finishing outside the top 120 in KenPom, that was really astute. And you also Stoudemire didn't immediately win at Pacific. It took a while to kind of like build the internal identity and just kind of the culture, I guess. I know it's such a buzzword for coaches, but it doesn't matter, especially for certain guys. It matters more than others. And I think it will take a little bit there. I'm probably a year early on getting excited about them, quote, which I wish I'd have listened to myself a little more, because I think I still ended up too bullish on him, despite kind of having that thought. So that's also something I'm going to take as a lesson going forward of, as much as I love a coach, remember that it's year one and not everybody fixes things immediately. We also loved Amari Abram, and he sucked and got hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
14th place, the Miami Hurricanes. Oh my gosh.
Oh boy, Kai, here's your big home run.
Oh.
Although you did have them 4th, but boy, you were dragging anyone that had them top 10, just dragging them.
People had them top 10 because they made the Final Four, and this happens every year. I'm surprised no one has NC State in the top 10 this season. All right, I'm going to read this quote because this is a good quote. I'm going to pat myself on the back, toot my horn here. So overrated. I've seen people putting them in the top 10. Stop it.
You're so exasperated. Just stop it. You're so exasperated.
I mean, they were. And Pack was hurt for a few games, but the guys they lost versus the guys they brought in, just not up to snuff. And even Matthew Cleveland had a fine year, but I didn't think he was that great. Will Poplar was fine, didn't have the big jump. And then, I don't know, Keyshawn George was fine. It's just a fine team that really clearly, Matt, I would say, lost the locker room. I would think just the way they lost down the stretch. It seems like they were just kind of giving up at that point. They had some pretty bad losses down the stretch.
I just think it was never a full team. It was just a bunch of pretty talented dudes that were kind of riding high off their success the year before. They got big paychecks, and
Yeah.
I think Jim Larinaga just never really could seize control of that team. He basically said outright, it's like, yeah, we took winning for granted for sure. So it's a bummer. I feel a lot more bullish than I do about the Florida State thing, but there are a lot of parallels. Obviously, like a lot of, the NIL affiliation there's pretty strong. You would think that they're always going to have talent. It's just too rich and too prestigious of a place, Jim. Too much of a brand cachet to ever really fall off. And I think Larinaga still says, he's like, hey, I don't really care about the whole player thing. I just like coaching dudes on a day-to-day basis. I'm gonna show up and coach guys. I kind of like that. Like one of the only few dinosaurs that's going to keep plugging away during this whole thing.
Yeah, that's solid. I think they seem, in my eyes, to have terrible resource management with NIL.
Yes, very good.
That's
Like,
proven, I think. Yeah.
Who they're paying and how many guys they pay. Like coming into last year's, like this team has 6 competent dudes. You can blame injuries, but if you only come in and like very clearly have no depth at all, and you're one injury away from sucking every single night, then that's how you finish 14th and the bottom drops out. And I just think they need to recruit more players. Like I think they had like 10 or 11 scholarship guys last year. Looking at, they have 10 right now, and a couple of them, 2 freshmen. One of them's a guy I consider somewhat useless. They've got to have a little bit more depth built in if they want to survive some of the injuries. Otherwise, they're just going to have these terrible years intermixed with healthy years where they go, it goes really well.
Yeah, stop giving guys like Len Kidd $1 million. What the holy downgrade? You couldn't give that to Amir, or give like Amir a little bit more money? I don't understand that at all. Len Kidd, holy cow. Like, they're doing it again.
13-6 for a non-tournament team.
Hey, I like Len Kidd. I like
fine.
Len.
Okay, he is
like
fine, Matt.
He's not a
just
million-
like
he is
Matthew
no
Cleveland
more than
last
fine.
year.
He is just fine.
What is this
Yeah.
market we're giving to mediocre players? Goodness gracious.
Some of these kids, though, like Len Kidd, way to go. Like,
Yeah,
perfectly
sure.
landed in a cash-rich destination.
Wish I was
the
6'10".
early
Holy cow.
early mover effect too, where you're like every guy, it's like, early in an auction, everybody's got money, so they'll overpay. And then you're like, all right, wait, then the spending goes down for a little while, and then it comes back up at the end. And yeah, they got paid.
Major
early.
bummer to lose Omir and Poplar at the deadline. It's just like, you would think Miami's like one of the few schools that would be immune to any sort of last second, hey, I'm gone. But hey, everyone's fair game. Everyone's a target.
Okay, finally Louisville. Boy, we were right. They sucked because Kenny Payne is one of the worst coaches, I think, in the history of college basketball. That was proven. Their coaching staff was brutal. Nolan Smith, maybe the worst assistant coach in college basketball history. No offense to Matthew. Horrible all around. Now, Pat Kelsey steps in. The state of the program is going to be just fine. Pat Kelsey's a great hire.
It's so fine.
Great
So
hire.
fine.
They're going now. I don't think they're going to necessarily make the tournament this next season. They might. I maybe not expect that. I'd probably make them a dog to make the tournament, but you can bet that talent pool is going to start ticking back up. The X's and O's are better. It's Louisville. They have brand cachet still. They have money. Jim, thoughts on Louisville?
Yeah, it's tough to do I think last offseason made a pretty big deal about New Mexico State having to reset all 13 scholarship spots. And like, there's a ton of teams doing that this year. Like Kentucky, Arkansas, Louisville are all in this, in the power conference level, doing all 13 scholarships anew. Kelsey's got the energy back, the interest. I think the NIL influx from just like, this isn't Kenny Payne, I want to give him money. That has helped. Stay of the program's great. But yeah, Matthew, it was bleak last year. We kind of knew it would be. It was even worse. Like I predicted 11 wins. Pat in the chat predicted 9. He's the big Louisville guy in our chat, and they won 8 games. And it's just erase that 2-year stench from the history books and let Pat Kelsey lead you going forward.
Yeah, Kenny Payne impressively missed his Ken Pom projection by 200 notches his first year. Started off at like 91 and they finished 290. And then, all right, they can't be that bad. And so, okay, we'll start off 109. Louisville at 109th, missed that one by 80, 75 spots. So, I mean, just not even close to even modest expectations last year. Yeah. Sorry, Kenny. I hope you enjoy your time resurrecting your image in Arkansas land, right? He followed Cal,
See back
or
with
sorry,
Johnny Cal.
reunited with John Cal at Arkansas. So good for those two. Happy for both.
Don't let him hold the clipboard.
So Kenny Payne's coaching career, he finishes 5-35 in ACC play and 12-52 overall. Not good, Bob. Not good.
Yeah, and I mean that's not like he's at Boston College. He was at Louisville. Like that is, just
Yeah.
I'm happy for faithful Cardinals fans like Pat, like Rutherford. Like you have something to cheer for now. And like Kai said, I'm not mega optimistic about year one, and I'm trying to temper myself on year one rebuilds. But Kelsey will get them going.
I'm in on year one, Jim. I'm all the way.
The rosters.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
Not ACC caliber.
You like
Oh, it
roster?
certainly is ACC caliber. This is not our father's ACC. This is an ACC caliber roster right now.
Oh,
Absolutely,
boy.
it is.
It's mid-major
It's not.
caliber. Anyways, we'll get
Wow, we got some board bets. Let's go, Louisville.
I
Hell's
can't
up,
wait
baby.
for the board bets on Louisville. If they don't upgrade from what they got, we're gonna have some real board bets.
In the preseason, we guessed how many teams would be in the tournament. Hey, Jim and Matt both had 5, and they were correct. NC State, the 5th team.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thanks for sneaking in, Wolfpack. Although, yeah, I don't know if Wake gets in, if all the bid steals, but yeah, only right because NC State won the ACC tournament.
Boy, I said 6, maybe 7. Man, I was drinking the Kool-Aid for the ACC. Mr. ACC Kai over here.
Yeah, Kai, you nailed every take team by team, but then at the end, you threw it all away.
Whatever. Didn't listen to myself. Okay, so looking forward real quick, just like overall, the league is adding more teams. Stanford, Cal, SMU. Not what you think of in terms of basketball powerhouses, but you're adding, I mean, the Pac-12 trend is so dumb in my opinion, but you're adding 2 good academic schools in Stanford, Cal. Okay, Stanford, I think has a lot of money, don't they? I mean, they could be a good basketball program. They've done it before. They can be again. They hired Kyle Smith. He's a fantastic coach. So maybe on the up, Cal has Madsen, fantastic coach. SMU has the Dallas area and a ton of money. And I think they're going to be spending. I think they could be sneaky good in the next couple of years. So the ACC will say probably like status quo for now, I would say, with adding these 3 teams, guys, compared to the other conference leagues.
Yeah, there's no upside at all. It just kind of reinforces the middle. And unfortunately, their middle is still a little softer than the middles of the other leagues.
Mhm.
That includes like the big behemoth 15 plus teams. So it's a high bar, unfortunately, for the ACC. It's still a very good league, but I don't think any of these adds like the Big 12 had an upside with some teams they got last year. Well, 1.5, it's for sure Houston. There's just no elite upside with Stanford, Cal, SMU.
Yeah,
solid, but no
rock
upside.
solid standardized test score ads, but unfortunately,
Yes.
I don't think they're going to make a huge needle move in the postseason success or qualification number for the ACC. Although, yeah, I'm still buying Madsen at Cal, but he's got a whole rebuild going there too.
Yeah, boy, we drank the Kool-Aid on them. But we will debrief those schools in their respective previous conferences. So we will do a Pac-12 state of the program podcast. Post-mortem,
Yeah.
we'll say later on down the summer. That does it for the ACC state of the program. We do have one review. If you'd like to stick around and listen to us read this review. It is from Jacob Corder, says, the Zags protecting the Galactic Republic. Happy May the 4th should the Zags receive an honorary NCAA championship trophy for helping stop the droid attack on the Wookiees. For reference, Alex Dench, a forward from our 1999 Elite Eight team, played as Wookiee chieftain Meru Meru, who led the defense of Kashyyyk.
Kashyyyk.
Thank you and keep up the great work. Jim, should they be given an honorary NCAA championship trophy?
Yes, absolutely. What a heroic role Meru must have played there. Kai, if you recall, this is, Revenge of the Sith before the Order 66 comes in and all the Jedi sadly die. Yoda escapes thanks to the help of Chewbacca, who was apparently around then. I don't know. I think that was a reimagining of the timeline, but Yeah, that's cool. I had no idea of that. Shout out to Mr. Dench for finding his way from Gonzaga into Star Wars. That's how you tie two of Jim and Kai's interests together perfectly. Great review.
Maybe
Yep.
I'm due for another watch of the second trilogy. Maybe I am.
Attack of
Have
the
your phone
Clones.
out while you do it. That's not one you need to
I remember
put the phone
hating.
away.
I remember hating Attack of the Clones. I did not mind Revenge of the Sith. I thought that was actually kind of good. Okay.
Learning you are. Yeah, that's Yoda from Attack of
Ah.
the Clones. I'm quoting Superbad, not the actual Star
I
Wars.
know. That's
No,
pretty
so-
good though. Happy birthday to Matt. Thank you for joining us on our podcast. Next week, TBD on time because the boys are heading to a bachelor party. So Wednesday night might not be the optimal time for us to do our podcast. It might be earlier in the week. It might be a week break. We'll see. We'll let you know on Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Subscribe, like. And we'll see you next time, whenever that might be.